All right, folks, it's time to welcome in one of my favorites, the legendary, the one and only Patrick J. Buchanan. Love talking to him, and let's get to it. And Patrick, how you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to talk to you. First of all, let me ask you, are you wearing those Converse All-Stars, or are you wearing Keds?
I went through too many pairs of Converse All-Stars to make second string.
No, I heard Pat on another interview today while I was driving in here to Newsmax, and I heard him talk about Converse All-Stars. How about, remember PF Flyers?
No, that probably was after me, Steve, but I do remember Keds.
Yeah, sure.
And they were very, very middle American, I'm afraid. Converse All-Stars were the thing.
Well, you were talking about it all in the context of America's manufacturing and ingenuity, and hopefully we'll have a chance to get to that. I do want to start with your theory on the missing plane, or what you feel might have happened to it. I hadn't heard, I think a lot of people would agree that it probably was some form of terrorism gone awry, if you will. But you had an interesting scenario as to what you thought the possible terrorists might have been planning.
Well, here's my view. Either it's a catastrophic event and killed everyone on the plane, I think, or the pilots or someone got into the cabin and cut off those two transponders, and that suggests an act of terrorism. But every terrorist act that I can recall, whether it's individual like Columbine or a couple of people like the Washington Navy Yard, they go out in a blaze of what they think is glory. It's horrible. But why would pilots or anyone getting into the cabin hijack a plane and drive it off into the Indian Ocean where no one would find it and no one would know what they did? So my speculation, and that's what it is, Steve, is that this was a Shanksville operation. This was a hijacking of the plane and a determination, I think, what would they go for? And the most spectacular thing they could go for with a plane flying out of Malaysia, if they didn't go to Beijing and do something to the Chinese, would be to turn it around and fly it back into those towers, which are bigger than the Twin Towers on Lower Manhattan.
In Malaysia, so you're talking about kind of a mini 9/11 in a sense.
Well, not just a mini 9/11. The Petrobras Towers, I think, are taller than the New York World Trade Center. And if you are mad or a terrorist and you want to go out and kill 230 people and have your name known to the world, that would be my speculation of what somebody tried to do. And my guess is that, again, this is total guesswork, that the individual that wanted to turn that plane around and go out in a blaze of glory was somehow stopped by someone, and you got a Shanksville conclusion.
Very interesting. No, I you know what? That makes as much sense as anything, because probably if it was on the ground, although I thought that was a possibility, chances are we would have seen it. And you're absolutely right. First of all, it had to be an act of terror or some catastrophic, unprecedented electrical something, but that doesn't account for the communications going down. All's okay, good night. I mean, it's just too suspicious. So you're right. Why would they then want to fly to a remote part of the Indian Ocean and dump it?
Exactly. Look, if you hijack a plane, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to land it somewhere, or you're going to wind up dead. Now, if you're going to wind up dead, what do you want to do with it? You want to obviously do something dramatic that you will be known. You know, all of these guys, take that guy Loeffner, whatever his name was, that shot Gabby Giffords. All these people want to do something dramatic and big. The Times Square bomber, the guy was going to blow up his underwear, but he had to do it over Detroit.
Right.
All of these things, they want to go out in the Madrid bombing, all of them. And I think if this is what you're doing, and you're already plotting the murder of all your passengers, I think you want to go out and make a statement to the world about who you are and what you believe and how everything you believed has been traduced, and you're doing this to your enemies.
Yeah, no, very interesting, and I think there could be a lot of credence to that. All right, you wrote a piece, and you asked the question, and by the way, Barack Obama, just about an hour ago, talking about U.S.-Europe relations, and you asked the question in your recent piece that I read, is Europe cracking up?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
Well, let's take a look. 3 countries, England, Great Britain rather, Scotland wants to secede, Catalonia, which is Barcelona, wants to secede from Spain, You've got northern Italy. The Venice region voted 89% over the weekend or last week to secede from Italy. That is one way Europe is breaking up. Parts of these countries, old countries, are breaking away. We saw it, frankly, in Crimea. But in addition to that, you take a look at England, the Independence Party. You take a look at Marine Le Pen's Popular Front or National Front in France. The anti-EU parties that are against the EU and are basically on the immigration issue and some other issues want to get out and destroy and bring down the European Union. Steve, I believe that there are two great forces in global history that are at work now. One of them is transnationalism. We see manifest in NATO and the European Union and all these global institutions, the UN and the Club of Rome and all the rest of it. And then you have subnationalism, ethno-nationalism, and tribalism, the desire of peoples to be with their own kith and kin, their own kind, and to break away from people unlike them. And this latter force, ethno-nationalism, in my view, is becoming dominant in the world now and triumphant. Look at the Sudan. The southern Sudan broke away. Eritrea broke away from Ethiopia. This is a trend, and now it's in Europe. And I think worldwide, this is the most powerful force ongoing, and it's far more powerful than any, drive to unify the world in, if you will, the New World Order or One World, the old Wendell Willkie vision.
And you attribute this to what?
Human nature.
Yeah, human nature, the desire to be with people who are like you.
Well, exactly, and you see it all. I mean, you see it everywhere. You can mean domestically, even in a minor way. Western Maryland wants to secede from Annapolis. I understand that. Northern Colorado, there's counties up there that want to secede from Denver.
Yeah.
Northern California, there's 11 counties up there that I think are trying to secede from California, and about 5 of them voted in a majority to do it. This is the trend, and I think it's going to grow and grow.
All right. Is Obamacare completely cracked up? Because you know about the latest extension now. People forget that silly March 31st deadline. Obama announced last night.
There's just a little more patchwork that needs to be done.
Yeah, so they're not quite ready yet. So you have until somewhere around mid-April, which, by the way, is tax time. I wonder if they'll extend both deadlines on April 15th.
Well, I think the problem is they can extend deadlines here and there. Two problems Obama's got. One is, does the Supreme Court say that you've broken the law by doing all these changes and alterations to written law and toss it out? But politically, suppose Republicans take the Senate and they both houses vote to repeal Obamacare, and he vetoes it. It's in place in January 2017.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and it's just crazy. It's just insane. You never know what you're going to find with this, and I wonder if this ever gets to the Supreme Court. I don't know who's bringing this to any court, though, that Obama is unilaterally, breaking the law or changing the law. I don't know that it could ever.
I think in a lower court, I've seen some action in the lower court where they're bringing it there. They're saying he has broken. I mean, he cannot do what he has done because once the law is written, that's that.
Right. Well, of course, their argument is, or at least they predict the argument will be, if there is ever an argument made in a court, that it's a tax and it falls under the Treasury Department. Blah 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 blah.
There's another argument I don't see. They said if it's a tax, it's got to originate in the House.
Yeah. Well, that would make sense.
And I don't think that it did.
No, yeah, we know it did not. Actually, we know it absolutely did not. Let me ask you one more thing before I let you go. What about Hobby Lobby? Yesterday, I don't know if you read what the...
Well, I think I'm familiar with it.
No, what I mean is if you read what the oral arguments were like with the questions being asked by the justices or not.
Well, you got the two, was it Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Yeah, you got the 4 and 4 basically, and we only have a minute left, and I'm sorry for that, but it comes down to Kennedy, really, and he did ask a question, what if they mandate that employers pay for abortion? And then Robert shoots back and says that's basically what the employers feel that they're having to do now with these pills.
I think we can win it. Let me say, for what I believe, I think we can win it, the religious freedom argument. I believe it could win it, and I believe it will win it.
Good. Well, from your mouth to the Supreme Court Justice's ears, or to Justice Kennedy's ears, because he's the one. Patrick J. Buchanan, always a pleasure, sir. And tie those shoelaces on the Converse really good so you don't trip.
Okay, you take it easy.
Take care. Bye-bye. Pat Buchanan. I love bringing out his sense of humor. He's got a great sense of humor, Pat Buchanan. And that was good. I love his theory on the plane. I haven't heard that from anybody else whatsoever. Very interesting. When we come back, Bill Donahue of the Catholic League says he will not march in the Gay Pride Parade. We got the exclusive here. Next, Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax Television.
The Steve Malzberg Show.